Well, that's not exactly who this is. We are Matt and Jim here for everything football. Now that is football, but it's actually football in the European side.
Across the pond.
Uh, and here's Ruth. Okay, let's add Ruth to the gang. Ruth,
Hello.
we are on
We're
live.
on.
There she is, Matthew,
Hello,
Ruth,
everybody.
and Jim here at noon. We're going to have lunch together, gang. We're going to talk
Yay.
football and have a little lunch and talk about what's going on. Ruth, we were talking, Matt and I, that we're just getting ready to talk a little bit about the AP Top 25, and you had some observations. You told me that you wanted to talk about from some of the games over the weekend. So,
Yes.
so nobody got to see you over the weekend.
Yes.
We'll give you the floor for the minute and see what goes.
On what games I want to speak about today? Is that
The ones that you said that over the past weekend you weren't big fans of.
yes?
Uh,
So Texas Longhorns, the #1 team. Archie Manning getting his first start on the road to play the Ohio State Buckeyes. Really like to speak over that game. A lot of kind of controversy over his first play took place that day. So we could get into that. And then obviously Florida State upsetting Alabama to the #8 team in the country right now. Got to speak on that as well. And I don't know if any of you gentlemen had the opportunity to watch the TCU game, North Carolina, on Monday night. Bill Belichick having his first start as the head coach after 34 years of being in the NFL. And it was interesting to see that it was 34 years to the date of when he had his first start as the head coach in New England facing Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys. And he, in the pregame, speaking to Holly on the sidelines, he was like, I just hope that the game doesn't go the same as it did in the opening week against the Cowboys. But we did see a very similar fashion with the 48-14 loss to TCU. So those are 3 games I'm excited to speak about today.
well, we did get to some of it yesterday. So I'll tell you what, just give us your highlights on. We'll go Arch Manning real quick. Give me your thoughts of Arch, and then we'll go to your FSU, and we'll go to Belichick.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to set up my mic.
Take your time. Take your time. Matt, we looked at yesterday and we talked about the 25. Ruth will get in here in a second. We kind of thought, Penn State and Ohio State would be up there. LSU made a big jump for them. Miami made a big jump. Texas stayed in the top 10, which is, I guess, fair. Clemson stayed in the top 10, and Notre Dame stayed in the top 10. That was a little odd to me.
They all fell in line at 7, 8, and 9 based on
how
high they were ranked prior. I get frustrated, it seems like, especially early in the year with the AP poll when it comes to their reactions and general overreactions to things.
Mm-hmm.
This time it felt like a bit of an underreaction, at least in terms of Texas and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Texas will end back up kind of where they're at. I don't think they deserve to be there right now, just based off what they showed us in Columbus. Similar with Clemson. Clemson looked like the same team from last year that just kind of, run-of-the-mill, dry football is, I think, would be the best way that I could describe it. A very uninspiring performance, and they hang around at 8 for some reason, I guess because they thought so highly of them based on their own preseason rankings.
Yeah, but the other thing, too, on the LSU-Clemson thing, right? LSU goes into Clemson and beats them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't close. So, I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
To me, Clemson, okay, you want to put them in the top 20, fine. But you put him in number 8, really?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, a lot of these writers just kind of, this is the score, this is what we've got. It looked close on the scoreboard, so it was a close game. We'll leave it close. Just because it's close on the scoreboard does not mean it is always a close game.
Right. Let me let you in on some of this. Okay. When UPI was out there, I used to have a UPI vote for 20 some years. and I would go out of my way to try to find. I mean, I did games, so I wasn't. I knew the game that I did, but I mean, I would. Back in those days, you didn't text anybody because cell phones weren't that prevalent. So you tried to look at scores. You tried to look at to make that vote. Midnight Eastern time that you put the votes in, and a lot of times what we're getting here on these AP polls, there's writers, but there's also a number of other people that are involved in it, and a lot of SIDs fill this out. I can guarantee there aren't the coaches aren't sitting there waiting, to fill out this thing right after a game.
Yeah.
They have no interest in it. So you get kind of like I don't want to say it's lazy, but I do want to say that it's not necessarily something that we really know about. Uh, okay, just checking out here something on our comments. And, nothing quite yet to go into. So, Ruth,
Yes.
we'll give you a couple quick hits on the weekend. Your observation on Arch Manning, and then on FSU, and finally on Bill.
Observation on Archie Manning. Tough game to go into the horseshoe and play against a defense by Matt Patricia, who has been a 3-time Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator. They definitely came in with the game plan to just not let Archie get comfortable in that game. We saw a lot of missed throws, a lot of overthrows by Archie, and just him not being able to get his footing in the pocket. So I think Ohio State came in there with a game plan to just disrupt the offense in any way possible, and that's what they were able to accomplish in that game. And I think Archie just needs to come better. Obviously, he has a shadow kind of over him and his collegiate career so far, with him being in the same family as the Mannings. There's a lot of pressure on this kid to really show out. People are projecting to him to be the number 1 draft pick when he goes into the NFL draft. So a lot of
great expectations. Yes,
huge expectations for Archie, and we
real quick.
did not see that.
It's Archie's his grandfather.
Yeah.
Okay, his name is Arch.
Got it.
Arch. So knock off the IE, and we're all good. The reason I say that is people were going to say he probably played like his grandfather would play if he was playing today. In that particular game, but it's Arch Manning, and he is look, he today that was game 1.
Yeah,
he's going to have a lot more games to play, and we'll see if Matt's defense was what was the cause, or whether it was just jitters or whatever it was. We talked a little bit about this, Matt and Ruth. Steve Sarkisian is very good at working with quarterbacks. So whatever didn't work in Ohio State, just take that and wipe it off the board. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that he's going to rally behind it, and Matt wrote a nice column about it. So we'll see. The jury's out, but at the same, I'm not giving up on him yet. I'm not saying, I'm not putting him in the Hall of Fame just yet either. So we'll see how it goes. But Arch has a ways to go, and Ohio State's defense played as you would expect Ohio State's defense to play. They played really strong. They didn't play well on offense, but they definitely did play well on defense. So FSU, you were in an FSU family building on Saturday.
I was.
So we talked about that yesterday. What your observation of is FSU real, or are we looking at an Alabama team that isn't so good?
I'd like to think they're the real deal. FSU obviously coming off of a only 2-win season the previous year. I think they have a lot to prove, and I think Norvell just knows exactly what to do to kind of put this team in the best position to win, and that's exactly what they accomplished in their new stadium this past weekend against Alabama. Just overall exciting game. I know Tommy Castellanos, the starting quarterback for FSU, doesn't have the most exciting numbers when you look at the stats for that game, but what he was able to, how he was able to command the offense by also being a dual threat quarterback, running the ball with 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, we just saw an exceptional, very well flowing offense when it came to FSU, and it didn't seem like Alabama had much of a response to it at all. So I'm hoping that this is just a foresight of what the rest of the season is going to look like for them, because they have a lot to prove.
Both of them do. Alabama and FSU do. But that being said, it was a good win for FSU. We talked about that, and I'm going to ask you both a question. If Kalen DeBoer finishes 8-4, which he did last year, is he going to be the head coach in Alabama next year?
I'd like to think so. I think 8-4. I mean, if they're below 500, we might be having a different discussion. But 8-4, similar numbers of last year. I think that they're still gonna. I don't really think Alabama has much of a choice. I don't think they can really move on from him so quickly with the payout. I don't think Alabama has big time money like other schools do. So I think they might have to just sit and wait.
AJ McCarron went on the record yesterday, I believe it was, and said that while a lot of these schools are playing around in the $50 million range in terms of NIL, Alabama's playing more in the $20 million range in terms of NIL funds. So they definitely they don't have the same amount of money that some of these other programs do have. So 70 million probably looks a little more steep to them. 8-4 doesn't get him fired going into next year. I think he'll still have next year. If you see a similar result the next year, that's when you start having the conversation of, all right, where are we going now? Because 8-4 in Tuscaloosa is not going to get it done in the long term. You see people just absolutely losing their minds as it is right now. Those people have grown up as spoiled as you can be, and having some type of fall from grace is not going well with them right now.
No.
I kind of feel like it would be compared to New England and their fall from grace with Tom Brady and then Bill Belichick following. I kind of feel like it's in the same.
It's always tough to follow the legends of the sport, regardless of where you are. You go back to when Bear Bryant left Bama, that kind of deal. But outside of the results on the field, the recruiting off the field has not been what Alabama's standards of recruiting have been. Now you can point to that lower NIL fund, but you can also just point to Kalen DeBoer not having the same connections that Nick Saban did. He had to bring Nick Saban in to help him recruit this offseason, and it's something that is worth watching, those recruiting rankings year in and year out, because that foundation and the way you build your program still has to be through the high school ranks. Recruiting still matters just as much as it mattered before the transfer portal. Now it's just a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. The other thing, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the interesting thing to me is that it levels out the top of it, but it also helps. We saw a USF team that had a number of players, and when they would say, "Well, here so and so transferred, he was a number 2 corner at Alabama. This guy was the number 3 linebacker at Penn State." I mean, the entire roster was built from blue chip players. Okay, and here's where the transfer portal helps some teams. Okay, and Dan Lanning, we talked about Dan and what he did out at Arizona State. It helps you get the kids. Let's say a kid from, in the case of, we'll use USF for just a moment, a kid who played football at Bartow, or he played football at down in Sarasota, or anywhere in a 90-mile to 100-mile radius. He goes off. He goes to play Alabama, or he goes to play Michigan, wherever he goes, and he comes back and he says, "You know what? I didn't get to play. My parents had to, couldn't come and see me. My friends couldn't come and see me. Why don't I go back to Tampa, play for USF? They can come see me every game, and I'll get to play." And that's Alex Golish's sell. at USF. It's bringing kids home, or it's bringing kids to the beach who wanted to go to the beach. So that's his sell. It's not it's not different than Mario Cristobal at Miami. It's not different than some of these other coaches. Definitely Dan Lanning, where you say, look, you're going to play here, okay? And it ain't so bad to be at this campus and the college, situation here. So yeah, I think that's the portal, spiel is to try to get these kids back to where, their parents can see them, their friends can see them, and they can all have fun again. It's not fun playing football when you're sitting on the bench.
No.
So anyway,
I will say,
go ahead, man.
In terms of the transfer portal and bringing guys in, you see some of these locations where it's like the home for misfit recruits. Right. all these former highly touted guys. UNLV is a place right now. They've got Justin Flo on their defense. They've got JoJo Earl on the offense. Orgy from Michigan, the quarterback, who has not really been playing because turns out, like, he couldn't in Michigan. He still can't throw the football, which is a pretty key piece to playing the quarterback position. But Dan Mullen kind of got out there and said, all right, hey, these highly touted guys at all these other places. They haven't worked out yet, but I need some talent on my roster. And so he just kind of went and plucked different pieces that were these highly recruited guys that went to what he deemed to be the right programs. And I guess what he deemed to be the correct foundation in learning.
You bring up a good point. Go ahead. Were you going to say something, Ruth? I'm sorry.
I was going to mention Ty Simpson for Alabama as well. I mean, he came in highly recruited up in, I believe it was the year 2022 when he joined Alabama, and he's finally now getting his start. And they asked him prior to the game why he didn't enter the transfer portal, since we see that so often in college sports where you don't want to sit on the bench, so you're going to enter the portal and have an opportunity to start somewhere else. And he spoke on the opportunity to be able to learn in this program and just wait for his chance and have faith that with his talents he'll be able to get to the point where he'll be a starting quarterback. I mean, you see so many Alabama players being just recruited to the NFL, drafted left and right. So, I mean, he was able to see Mac Jones get drafted to the NFL, and he had a lot of Alabama players that he got to watch see their dreams come true. So he just wanted to wait for his opportunity and have the faith, and it's working out for him now because now he's a starter.
Matt brought up a good point, and that's one of my favorite people in college coaching is Dan Mullen. But Dan's problem, and this is crazy, but Dan's problem is he's a system guy. And Matt, you and I talked about Utah yesterday. Utah's a system situation. They don't care if it's a 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. They don't care where you are. We want some guy who can play in the system. So, for whatever reason, we got Dan having issues, with Florida, because they're saying, well, we're not recruiting the 4 and 5. Well, it's not his system. I mean, if you're playing in his system, then you're playing in his system. If not, you're not. So, I don't know. We'll jump Sean in here. Sean Miller, our partner in crime. Sean, hey, how's it going? It's Matt, it's Ruth, it's me. We're having some lunchtime football.
Hey, Matthew, how's it going? I'm just at work. Just wanted to jump in and see how everybody's doing today.
Yeah, we're having some fun. We started a couple of minutes ago, and we're having a little lunchtime football talk, a little college, and then we're going to talk a little bit of the pros. So we're just talking about.
I just want to say, go Noles.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.
Okay, well, be careful. You got a Georgia guy directly under you.
Matthew gave that out as a big winner last week. He said they were going to beat Alabama.
Well, he was right. That was definitely correct. It's fun. We have a situation here where Dan took Florida to the title game, gave Alabama all kinds of fit, and then next year he gets fired because he doesn't bring in 4 and 5-star recruits. Yet he won. And Utah does the same thing, and there's a lot of schools out there that do the same thing. Dan Lanning didn't have a lot of 4-star and 5-star recruits in that portal deal. But
I
he sure as hell put together a nice roster.
I will say, in terms of the SEC, winning if you're not at the upper echelon of programs, the
Yeah.
Georgia, the Alabama, the Texas,
Yeah.
even LSU is susceptible to this too. And I have an example I'm going with. Winning doesn't necessarily cure all in the SEC,
No.
right? Because you look back at Dan Mullen, you're talking about, it didn't
Right.
buy him a lot of time making it to that SEC title. And I think people were probably upset with the way that season went in terms of their loss to LSU. Oh, we lost them. But Coach O, one of the greatest teams in modern college football history, LSU in 2019. Oh, all right.
It's just us, Maddie. I'm listening though.
There we go.
Just
We'll be
now.
back.
No, but
Wi-Fi is running hell here on the East Coast. Yes.
no, but LSU in 2019 is one of the better, if not the best team in modern college football history for 1 year. And it bought Coach O the majority of the 2020 season, and that was it. So just because you win 1 year doesn't mean you're, invincible the next.
Right. And it's funny too because Orgeron and Mullen both got fired in the same year.
Hey, and I'll give you, I found this interesting because Coach O did an interview. I think it was at Barstool Sports the week this past week leading into the opening weekend. And he described Arch in the same breath as he described 2019 Joe Burrow. And I feel like that's a perfect synopsis on why he is no longer a head coach anywhere, much less in the SEC.
Yeah. Well, he's I don't know. I like Ed. I like Dan. Dan did a hell of a job as Urban's offensive coordinator at Florida. Won him won 2 national championships with them. And another guy who didn't get much love from that standpoint, who ran the defense, was Charlie Strong. And Charlie made a mistake. He thought leaving Louisville and taking the Texas job would be the best thing in the world for him. It was not. And, Texas was willing to spend money to get rid of him. And he ended up at USF and then fell off the face of the planet after that. But
that's the coaches in those lower jobs. Jumping up doesn't always help. Look at Rich Rod going to Michigan.
Yeah. Look at Willie Taggart.
Yep.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you who are, looking at your milk cartons with pictures of Billy Taggart on them, he actually is the linebacker and defensive back coach of the Baltimore Ravens. So Todd Monken from Georgia is the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, and Willie is the linebacker and defensive back coach. So the SEC and the ACC is well represented on the Ravens coaching staff from that standpoint. So. All right, let's talk a little bit about a couple of games this week. We got SMU and Baylor, which I think we got a lot of fans who are from the Big 12, and they are very, very touchy about the conference. This game, I know it's not a major game by any stretch of the imagination, but it kind of is a game that you sit there and go, okay, can SMU beat Baylor, and can Baylor do stuff that they haven't done recently, and that is actually play 4 quarters of good football.
Yeah, and Baylor in specific, I don't know how people feel about them, but I was rather uninspired by their performance against Auburn. All things considered, their complete inability to stop Jackson Arnold from running the football when that was seemingly the only true consistent source of offense for Auburn was that. And they didn't adjust. They didn't adjust at all throughout the game. There was no adjustment to come. And then they gave up the big kick return late that kind of sealed the deal. And Kevin Jennings is a guy, he threw for 3,500 yards last year, but he also ran the ball on occasion well. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, ran for over 300 yards, and to go along with it. So, what kind of problems is Rhett Lashley going to show that Baylor defense? And I think it's going to be probably a long defensive night for Baylor if they don't adjust.
The thing too, fun fact, Baylor led the country last year in going for it on 4th down. They did it. As a matter of fact, in the game they played that you just referenced, the 2 touchdowns they scored were scored on 4th down plays. So I don't know about your thoughts about it, but in the NFL and and in college, it seems like going for 4th down now is not such a thing that everybody gets too worked up about. They just enjoy. They figure that it's kind of like baseball with this, cybermetrics. Cybermetrics says play this type of way, you play that type of way. In the NFL, we see, Ruth, you know this, we see a lot of it where coaches go for it on 4th down without even hesitating.
We see a lot of that with coaches like Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions. It's like one of his things that everybody knows. Like, if it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4, he's going for it. And I think it makes the game more exciting when you see less punts and you see just more action and more risks on the field.
Numbers wise, go ahead, Matt. It looks like you're going to say something.
I wonder if in college less than the NFL, if teams aren't more inspired, I guess would be the right word to use, to go for it on 4th based on how their special teams have played. In the NFL, you've kind of got a baseline of performance that you're getting from your special teams. But in college, you can have a punter that is just god awful. Like, he can't spot a kick, he can't kick it deep.
Yep.
Maybe your punt coverage is terrible too. Maybe you don't have fundamentals on punt team. And I wonder if that doesn't play into some of it. I know it plays into some of it in terms of the field goal kicking.
Sure.
When you drive down, okay, well, our guy can't make it from out here, and it's 4th and 2. The analytics go, so we're going to go. It is supposed to result positively in points gained, which makes a lot of sense. But everybody now relies on their analytics guys. It was the way that Notre Dame beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Their analytics and the way they went for it on 4th, and when they went for it on 4th, and the way they went about it was how they won that football game. Analytics can win you football games. It can also lose you football games, as we've seen with Lane Kiffin time and time again. It feels like.
The other thing too is that if you run tempo, right? If you run tempo, you don't have to. It's not a call timeout and let's go for 4th. 4th. You're rushing to the line. You know where you're lining up. The defense doesn't, and unless you screw it up, it's if you only have to pick up 2 or 3 yards, you can get there 2 or 3 yards if you're running tempo. And so some of the things we see is it's tempo versus slowly walking to the line of scrimmage and going for it.
One of the things that I really like in terms of strategy wise is when teams take timeouts in crunch time on 3rd down instead of 4th down, and when they call that timeout, they call 2 plays. So you're going 1. If 1 doesn't work, then we're going tempo and we're going to our second and we're going to our second play.
Well, let's move on to Thursday night, and it's Philly. And it's a Dallas Cowboy team that Jerry Jones swears to God is better without Micah Parsons. Now, I am not a professional football coach. I am not a professional football owner. But on what planet does Jerry Jones feel the Cowboys are better without Micah Parsons than they are with Micah Parsons?
I think as a Dallas Cowboys fan, obviously, with the star behind me, as you can see, it's disappointing to hear Jerry speak like that, but it's almost expected at this point. I think this time in his age, I think it's just his ego is just overwhelming and has been for decades. And I think it's just on display to think that we are a better team without Michael Parsons. But I mean, he's trying to be hopeful. He's trying to, I guess, get his name out of the fire since everybody's kind of been flanking towards him ever since this trade kind of hit the spotlight last week. I'm not excited for this Thursday's game. I mean, we're going against the Philadelphia Eagles that are riding off of a Super Bowl win. And yeah, we've had a lot of drama during the offseason and training camp surrounding Micah Parsons. And then with that trade being finalized last week, it's just doesn't make me super excited for opening week.
Matt, any thoughts about Micah Parsons not being on the Cowboys?
I think Jerry's probably going with the angle of addition by subtraction, at
Mhm.
least in terms of saying they'll be a better football team. I don't know how much Micah was truly taking away from him sitting out.
Right.
I would say teams that were hurt by Micah sitting out is more Green Bay than Dallas would have been.
Mhm.
But the thing that stands out to me is since he got to Green Bay, the report of that sprain in that L4 and L5 vertebrae,
Mhm.
and how will it affect him throughout the season? You know, maybe we get a hindered Micah Parsons and he doesn't do a whole lot. I still don't think that would necessarily fully justify the trade, at least in terms of this year. It's not going to make Dallas better. Kenny Clark is a really good defensive tackle, and he's
Mhm.
29 years old. And I think that's a solid addition for the interior of that line. And to Jerry's point, it will help them in their run defense.
Right.
He's a solid pass rusher, but the 2 first-round picks are going to be a plus on the back end eventually. Not right now, though. But in terms of right now, their defense leaves a lot to be desired. You know, they're going to have trouble getting to the quarterback. I think their pass rush obviously did take a massive hit with Micah Parsons, you know, as long as he does play in Green Bay.
Well, Philadelphia. Philadelphia comes into the game and into this season with great expectations. I guess the number one thing for me is, can Saquon Barkley be the same Saquon Barkley he did last year? I mean, running backs in this league, sometimes they have one and done from a standpoint of they have a great season, then you don't hear from them again. But I have a feeling that because the way that Saquon plays, which isn't, he isn't a between the tackles kind of guy. I think that might help him be better again this year than he was last year. And on the short yardage things, they got the tush push and they just push forward. They don't have to turn around and hand the ball to him and get him beat up. So and he also is great in the pass game. So I'm looking at Michael, at that situation with Saquon, who, by the way, happened his Cam Brown, who is a linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. He and Saquon were roommates at Penn State, and living 2 floors above me is Cam's mother. And so I got on the elevator during the summertime, and I'm thinking, this guy really looks familiar. It's like it was Saquon Barkley along with with Cam, and Cam introduced me, and couldn't have been a nicer guy. I'll tell you what, a surprise. He isn't as big as I thought he was.
You said
Yeah.
he isn't as big as you
He
thought?
isn't as big as I thought he was.
Yeah.
Take a look at his quads.
I didn't really I only had him for 2 floors, so I
Yeah.
really didn't take a look. I I didn't ride the extra couple of floors up so I could run the extra couple of floors down. But
Yeah.
no, he's a guy that I think, frankly, is more of a speed guy than he is a hard hitting guy. And he doesn't have exactly Barry Sanders moves, because nobody has Barry Sanders moves. But he does play that kind of style of running. He reminds me of Barry Sanders a lot.
Yeah, he's got the thing that stands out about running backs and what makes a good running back, or what makes a great running back over a good running back, their center of gravity. And obviously with the way his legs work, stature, he's not built to be a bruising back. But if you catch him one-on-one with a DB, he can power his way past him and at least drag him for a couple extra yards just because of the power that he generates from his legs.
Right. And he's got those ankles that break. It's like you're like, wait, how did he go this way? Your legs are not allowed, or should not be allowed, to move that direction. But he's, they go. There's a lot of guys that whiff on him whenever they get him in the open field as well. Yeah. So we'll see from that standpoint. And Philadelphia, I believe Philadelphia's defense is kind of underrated from that standpoint. So we'll see how it goes from that standpoint. Everybody excited about getting the NFL season started?
Extremely excited.
Pretty inspiring opening game.
Philly and Dallas.
Yeah,
They got a conference game and a rivalry game all in one. Then we go down to Brazil for the next game on Friday night. That's one of those situations where you're going, exactly how many frequent flyer points can we get for this trip? It's going to be wild.
Yeah, why Brazil? Could someone educate me on that?
The NFL is reaching out, and the only places they can get traction is in South America and in Europe. And they played a couple games in Mexico City. They played a couple games in Brazil. Brazil, of course, has the soccer stadiums left over from the World Cup a few years ago. And so there's a fan base down there. To what extent, we don't know. Enough to get a full house on a Friday night down there. But it's more of the league looking to try to branch out. It's tough for the NFL to branch out because the NBA easily behind soccer is the second biggest. A third, I guess, would be the third biggest sport out there. But it's tough for the NFL to grow. But they are finding pockets in the UK and in Germany and in some South American countries. They're making some traction. So I think that's where they're going with it, and why they're going down south for it.
So the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Chargers in Brazil Friday night. Okay, that's an interesting matchup.
Okay, guys, let's see. I have a question here from Dan West. And Dan says, Jim, do you think the ACC posted a potential plan to replace members when needed? Memphis was number one on the list. Was the order intentional, random, or what? I'm going to get myself in trouble, which is normally how this works. Memphis is never the number one choice. Okay, let's start with that. Memphis, if we see in the next round of movement in football, if we see FSU go and Clemson go, North Carolina and Miami or what the hell ever else they've got thinking out there going, the number one call is not going to be to Memphis. So get that out of your head. Memphis offered $250 million to the Big 12, and they turned them down. I just think that I don't think. Let me just start with this and end with this maybe, and that is I don't see the Big 10 or the SEC going for more than two teams. There's no reason for it to happen. More guys. Sometimes more is just more. I don't think that FSU or Miami or North Carolina or or Florida State adds that much to the conference. Being honest, you're not getting rid of anybody, so that just gives you more mouths to feed. Look, when Miami and a number of teams that were in the old Big East moved to the ACC, Miami hasn't won a national championship since they've been in the ACC. Pitt was the only team to win a conference championship for the Big East, and didn't win a national championship. So I'm not moving. UCLA and USC lost their identity entirely, as did Oregon and Washington when their moves. So moving, what are you moving for? Are you moving for money? Trust me, it's not that much more money when it's all said and done. So I don't see. I think they're going to be very strategic. I think that if the Big Ten chooses, they're going to probably move south. They're probably going to take Maybe they take a Miami and North Carolina. I don't think that Clemson and FSU are fits for the Big Ten. Just my observation. And by the way, just for the record, FSU has been invited to the SEC 9 times. So anybody that thinks Florida's blocking FSU is crazy. They don't. Nobody's blocking anybody. I mean, if Texas can't block Texas A&M, believe me, Florida's not going to be able to block Florida State, or Clemson might not be able to be blocked by South Carolina. You guys think there's going to be any movement in college this when the contracts get closer?
I mean, I feel like movement in the college game is inevitable at this point, especially when you start talking about the things like revenue sharing and salary caps in college football, which just seems to be what everybody who has ever been in football for 25 plus years, whenever they get on air and they're asked about college football and the state of college football and the way things are, they always go salary cap, revenue sharing. They need a structure. And when that structure comes, is there some kind of format that follows where it kind of goes, hey, these are our money makers, this is everybody else, let's split these apart and let's play big football games and have everybody else just kind of stuck on their own, which FBS FCS split, you may get that kind of split between Power 4 and non-Power 4 in the coming years. I would not be shocked by it, at least.
I do think that they're heading to an NFL model because there's no reason, if you're the Big Ten, okay, let's say we add North Carolina and Miami, just for the sake of argument. We add North Carolina and Miami, and so basically we still have Purdue, we still have Rutgers, we still have Maryland, we still have a number of teams that have not competed for a championship forever. So how much more money is NBC, Fox, and the rest of the gang going to fork over for basically 2 teams? And I don't think that the ceiling is going to get any higher. If NBC and the rest, if everybody goes after those 2 conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, believe me, there won't be any money left for the other 2. So there won't really be a Big 4. There isn't a Big 4 right now. There's 2 in the rest of them. So I don't buy anything other than the potential. Matt, you're saying eventually break away. It makes sense to eventually just go ahead and say, okay, these are the 50 best teams in the country, or the 48, or whatever the hell you want to call it. But these are the teams in there, and break them off and say, okay, these, and then they do it regionally, which is hilarious because that would mean that UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Oregon, who left the Big 12 and blew up the Pac-12, would be back playing regional football again. So, but I do believe that, guys, college athletics are not supposed to make money. That was all process. Okay, they are a non-profit part of a university, and so what exactly are you doing here now? Now we've got a professional version of college football. And do I think the players should be paid? Yeah, fine. I think the other day, we're getting much closer to an NFL style set up in college than we ever have before. And I'm afraid that's probably what we're going to see in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I would like to say that the direction of college football, at least for my money, I hate it. I didn't like the playoff expansion because I feel like you were sold a wolf in sheepskin when it came to the promises that people made in terms of bigger, more games, stuff like that. You can't just keep expanding more games, more games, more. Well, that's just not going to work. This is still football. It's not going to 10 matchups every week. It just doesn't make any logical sense. And I think people just kind of fell in love with something that, at least public perception, they fell in love with something. And the people who are in charge, who don't care about college football and the basis and the tradition and everything that it was built on, are the ones that are selling them this. And more teams, more seats at the table. And going back to a point that we talked about earlier, you're talking about USF taking all these second and third stringers off this team. Well, guess what? The G5 has a seat at the table now. Yeah, but the G5 is using the backups of all the teams that they're going to be playing against. They don't have an actual shot at going and winning this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a dream, and it's always going to be a dream. There's going to be some Cinderella magical opponent, but especially as they change the seeding up, the G5 teams are going to be left out to rot. They're not going to have a chance because they never had a chance to start with. Mm-hmm. And the same goes for all these other back, like these teams that are filling in the back, that they're like, well, we have a chance. SMU had a chance last year. How did that go? Mm-hmm. No, it didn't look too good. Arizona State, they had a chance. They made the best of their chance because Arizona State was a good football team last year. And the list goes on. But it opened the door for the regular season. What was formerly the best regular season in sports, gone.
You know, the thing, guys, that bothered me is the joy of college football to me, and I don't know whether it is for you, was the regionality. I love the regionality. I love the fact that, if you were in the SEC or the Big Ten, I did Big Ten for 2 years as their, the lead director on the Big Ten Network. The beauty was getting there on a Friday and just enjoying walking around campus and having fun and talking to people and all the fun stuff that all the tailgating and all the whole situation. We have Rutgers hosting USC. I don't know that really is going to move the needle. Ruth, your family fans down there at FSU, I can't wait if they got to the Big Ten for them to enjoy seeing Purdue drop by, or Indiana, or some of the teams in the Big Ten, or for that matter the SEC. It's just not. It's hard to get excited if you're a fan base for a team you've never heard of before, or you haven't paid any attention to. And that's the beauty. The SEC has done one thing right. A lot of things, but one thing, they haven't left the footprint. Okay, Missouri, I guess, you could argue that Missouri was leaving the footprint, but they haven't left the footprint. It's the Texas-Oklahoma situation. Texas is right next, so that wasn't a big thing either. So they've stayed true to the footprint. The Big Ten has decided to go, okay, we're going to go coastal. We're going to put teams on the East and teams on the West Coast and everybody else in the middle. I guarantee you, if you ask, as I have, the athletic director, but I've got a softball game I got to play, 3,000 miles from campus. And we, by the way, don't fly private. We go commercial. And so it's going to take us a while to get out there and get back. So this is taking a toll on the student athletes. There's just no way otherwise.
Also, the regionality aspect and the expansion of these conferences. Mm-hmm. They're talking about not playing Farmageddon every year. And, for people, in the South or in the North or maybe out West, the Farmageddon, you probably didn't even know that Kansas State and Iowa State was a rival.
Right.
But it is. And these people that have gone to these schools and, they love it, or they've been a part of it. It's part of the tradition and the pageantry that is college football. Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about not playing it. For why? Because the people pushing the buttons are the same people who don't care about the regionality of it. it does not matter to look forward to it, and it's a rivalry. They're just pushing the buttons that make them more money.
My late father went to the University of Pittsburgh, and the backyard brawl was always fun. West Virginia and Pittsburgh playing each other. It was great. It's only 75 miles from Morgantown to Pittsburgh, so it's not like it's a long trip. You got the Apple Cup, back of Washington and Oregon. You got, as you say, breaking up really hadn't gotten a lot of traction, but it started, and that was the war on I-4 between USF and UCF. I mean, that was fun. It was fun. Neither team may have had a great year, but that one game,
everybody looked forward to it.
Everybody looked forward to it, and those rivalries. It bothers me. I agree with Matt on this one. It bothers me that they blew up. The good wanted was the top teams. You could have said, all right, here we're going to put together a league, and this is the top 50 teams in college football, and the rest of you guys stay where you are, keep playing, have a good time. And I think that could have worked with it, but blowing up the conferences to me is
I will say, you said top 50 teams. There's still some rivalries that would probably be left out in that model.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because Apple Cup, I don't think Washington State, anybody's going to be pounding the table to get Washington State as one of the top 50 teams in the country.
No.
When it comes to football. The same could also be said about Bedlam and Oklahoma State, and I don't think that rivalry would come back because I'm not sure if people would consider Oklahoma State one of the 50 best teams. You look at what all of the criteria that they would take into account when coming up with that group of 50.
I'll tell you, it looks to me one that just came back, the Holy War, because religious situations, a religious school like BYU, I don't know that they could bend the rules enough to get them into the top 50.
And that is not only is BYU a good program, that is a fantastic rival.
I will tell you, guys, and with you, you'll appreciate this as well. I did a column for Forbes 2 years ago, and it was about the Pac-12 and what are they going to do? What are we going to do? They were still there, but the conference was still there, and I said, well, Utah and Utah State, Utah and BYU, because BYU had just been brought into the Big 12. So, I don't see where Utah would be a good fit in the Big 12. I just don't. It's not a program that jives with that whole thing. And I did that on a radio show in Salt Lake, and I swear, my Twitter feed got blown up. I got blown up. It's like I don't know what I said to offend everybody, but I was, which then led me to know, okay, Jim, you idiot, you should have known that that the Holy War was very important to Utah and Utah State. And David Smoke, who was the guy who was hosting the show, goes, you realize you are going to get in trouble for this, right? And I'm like, oh, come on, David, you don't. So, and they do not like each other. That is not even close to being right. That's a hostile environment whenever those two teams get together. But, it is what it is, right? I mean, we hope. I mean, I don't think. I think when we're talking FSU, I think FSU has thinks that Miami's tougher. I mean, that's more of a rival to them than the Gators are. Because I know the Gators consider their rival to be Georgia.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a case of two teams having, I guess, heated rivalries, and I would say whoever's up at that moment is probably the team that is like, okay, well, we're more of a rival with them right now than we are, because Florida didn't care about FSU last year. Not many people did care about FSU last year, and for good reason. But those big games and keeping those rivalries are just worlds more important than I think people realize the fabric of college football. And they loved last weekend. It was great. That's their kind of football. It's great for you. NFL's on Sundays. Turn that on instead. I don't like the NFL structure moving into college football.
I don't either, but I don't know how else it's gonna, how they're gonna make it work. Otherwise, because they've blown up the conferences, so you got to do one or the other, and nobody's getting kicked out of conferences. So I think that's going to be the only way you do it is if you break it apart, and that's the only way you can do it. So
when you're speaking on implicating the, are you talking about like splitting these conferences up into divisions? Like, how are we?
Well, it wouldn't be the conferences. You would designate, okay, how many teams do we want in this league? Okay, it would be a conference. It would be an actual league. And so what happened would say, all right, how many teams in the Southeastern Conference do we want to take? Okay, goodbye Vanderbilt, goodbye Kentucky, goodbye a number of Mississippi State, maybe Mississippi for that matter. Would make the cut, and they would, and it's all based on eyeballs, right? I mean, and that's how they do it, fair or not. I said 40, it could be whatever, 50, whatever it is, and then you do it regionally. You got just like they do in the NFL. You've got East Coast, an Eastern Conference, a Western Conference, a Southern Conference, a Midwest Conference, I assume in this case. I'm sorry, Midwestern Conference you would do, and then everybody else would be, as Matt said, they would be left to play, games with themselves on what would in essence be, the Big Ten and the SEC and the rest of the conferences would all be the same. They just wouldn't have the teams that everybody usually would be acknowledged as the teams that are at the top level. So you'd have, it's almost like English Premier League soccer. Okay, you have the top level of English Premier League soccer, and then you have the teams that are relegated, off. I would love to see a format that had relegation to it, so that teams who are on the rise, like like South Florida or Memphis or whomever, could make it up to that level. Okay, but that's never been a concept that the U.S. sports has grasped at all. So I don't think now is the time for them to suddenly, the light bulb go off and go, let's go for it and have fun. So I do believe that these manufactured rivalries that weren't there before and probably aren't there now, but would have to be put together. So it would be interesting, but I unfortunately I don't see why or how adding more teams to an SEC or Big Ten makes that any better, or busting the ACC or the Big 12, up to make 24 teams in both the SEC and the athletics. You got schedules, you move people around the country. It might work for football because they charter planes, but it definitely isn't going to work for anything else. So I just all these people who are talking about, well, the Big Ten's going to add 5. They're not going to add more. They didn't want to add the ones that they got. I mean, they ended up for deals. So, okay, fine. They got 2 for the price of 1. So, okay, that is what it is. Oklahoma, you couldn't, if you're SEC, you couldn't overlook taking Oklahoma and Texas. That just was not ever going to be a big mess from that standpoint. You can't not take those brands, but you sure as hell don't necessarily need Oregon and Washington. But if you're going to get them on the cheap, okay, fine, we'll take them on the cheap.
And in terms of deals, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How upset do you think Tennessee fans are going to be when Penn State makes more money off their Adidas sponsorship than they did?
Everybody who thinks they need, deserve money is going to be how. Okay, let's go, Ruth. You're down there at Florida State, right? You think FSU's really pleased that Indiana makes almost $35 million more a year than they do?
No, I would think that they. No, I would think that they feel like they would be more deserving to be making those big dollars. But I mean, how do you control that?
You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a grant of rights, and FSU said, okay, well, we can break the grants of rights. Well, I've happened to see grants of rights. I happen to used to negotiate those deals. You can't break a grant of rights. Guys, let's just keep going, right? We're all for it until we're not. And the grant of rights comes up whenever the TV deals come up. And so you can get out. And so what FSU can potentially do with the way it's set up is the next TV contract comes up in 2030-ish. It would cost them $75 million to leave, assuming they would get taken by one of these other conferences. You have to be invited to go somewhere. You can't just. That's where they are. So they signed a conference, they signed a deal, and that's where we got. So that's how it is right now. And movement. I don't see any movement until at least 2030, because there's no reason to do it. They're still trying to figure out logistics in both the Big Ten and the SEC, more in the Big Ten than in the SEC, as I said, because they stay. And Matt, to your point, every day people are upset because they're not making the money that they think they should or should have gotten. And that's why we have such turmoil at this point in time. But we're not going to be able to solve it this afternoon. So let's just get a take from each one of you before we leave here this afternoon. Let's close it with Ruth. Go ahead.
This week I'm looking forward to the this one of those big interconference rivalry. Means a lot to the people of Iowa. May not mean a lot to the people outside of Iowa as much, but it's a really good football game. It's low scoring. It's defense. It embodies the state of Iowa, I feel like, pretty well, generally speaking. It's a rivalry that's been dominated by Iowa as of late. So can the Cyclones? They've won. I think the Cyclones have won 2 of the last 3. Both of them have been in games. They lost in in Ames.
They won at home.
The away team has won all of the last 3, I believe. Correctly.
Okay.
I think I have. Right.
So, I think I know that
I was mixing up Ames and Iowa City. That was my bad. I'm pretty sure the away teams won every time. I'm pretty sure I'm 98% sure it's in Ames this weekend.
Okay.
Watch out, Iowa State.
Right. I wouldn't go against Iowa State at home this time.
Yeah.
Maybe not. So maybe you're not looking forward as a Cowboy fan.
No, I'm not. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm really not. And it's been a while since I said such thing. But in terms of college football over this weekend, I'm really looking forward to this. And another game that I'm looking forward to watching is going to be Oklahoma and Michigan. I think that will be an exciting game to watch over the weekend. But yeah, NFL is also back this weekend. And
yeah, so I thought you'd have something.
Out of the NFL, I think the most exciting matchup is the Bills and the Ravens this coming weekend.
That should be good.
Yeah.
Those are two perennial, Super Bowl contenders, and we'll see how it works out.
MVP versus MVP.
There you go.
A quick question,
Sure.
Circling back to the AP poll and all the problems that I have with the AP poll. You brought up Michigan and Oklahoma. They have Michigan ranked 15. They have Oklahoma ranked 18th. I would be very curious to see how many of those AP voters would actually put money on Michigan to win this football game on Saturday, since they were so confident ranking them 3 spots ahead of them.
Yeah.
Well, if they did, they'd be losing some cash this weekend. I don't think. I think Brent Venables
playing in
team
Oklahoma this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think Brent Venables has got it figured out, and no shade on my buddies at Michigan, but the Maize and Blue are going to come in and find out what it's like to play out there. And let me tell you, Norman, Oklahoma is not a fun place to be for a Saturday afternoon if you are the opposing team.
Bama proved that last year.
Yeah, that's true. All right, boys and girls, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks, of course, to Matt and to Ruth for being with us. And we will definitely see you sometime soon, tomorrow. Hopefully, join us for lunch, okay? Bring your food, and we will try to bring the entertainment. Okay, everybody, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. And hit the right button, Williams. Okay. There we go. Come on. There we go. Goodbye again, folks. Honestly, I swear I'm trying to get us out of here. We have this. It's a funny thing about pop.